I mentioned, completely different from what we've been talking about previously, was focusing all about message and understanding your people. This is about how you're going to deploy this externally to get the right candidates in to the organisation. So it's something that we've been working on at Creeds for about the last year, since the start of lockdown, really, an alternative way of doing things that gives us and clients more control over media strategy moving forward. So that's me. I'm Johnny, client partner at Creed. I've been here around 7 years, worked with a number of organisations to help them deploy their media strategy, their employer brand, and their presence externally and internally with their candidates and their people. So Nicola Little is one of those lovely clients, and she's joined us today as well.
Perfect. Do you want me to do the intro about myself and also the company? I think it's on the next slide, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm Nick Little. I'm the head of recruitment for Voyage Care. So I've been in the care sector for about 4 or 5 years now. So I'm working my way around it all. But in terms of Voyage Care itself, we provide specialist support people for people with complex needs. And that's about 3,500 people that we look after at the moment. We have about 600 services that are nationwide. And we employ 10,000 plus. I think we're on about 11,500 now. And our aim is always to try and hire about 400 people every single month. So that's a really high, ambitious target that we have, but one that is a bit of a struggle at sometimes. So it's nice to talk to you about this alternative option that we've come across with Creed. And historically, we've used all the traditional channels, as what you would imagine that to look like. Your job boards, like a 12-month investment, and you know, it's been a bit of a hit and miss. So it's great, as I said, to talk to you about this opportunity, and especially like some of the wins that we've had off it, really.
Yeah. So breaking the cycle is a phrase that we're using because I think when we talk to clients, that a cycle is something they feel like they're on and they're not always able to get out of it. So a cycle of existing media commitments that tend to be over a long period of time to get the right value for money. You've got to commit to either a long time period or buying quite a lot to get that economy of scale, but it means you're then tied in. You don't always, so within that, you don't get the flexibility to change things if things aren't working. Doesn't always have the reach to get the candidates that you need, or if you know something changes like a global pandemic and actually you've got to do things a little bit differently, you don't have the ability to do that. The conversion rate tends to be you know, is not always what clients need, and the risk is on the client. So it's about, right, I'm gonna I almost have to commit all that money up front. So you might have an annual budget that if it's January to December gets committed on the 2nd of January, and you've got 2/3 of your budget for the year that's locked in. And if anything changes in the world or the you know, the strategy and the business, then that's kind of locked in. So there's a bit of a hope and an expectation that's going to still keep on delivering. If something happens in the market, one of the channels, you know, an algorithm changes or something and performance dips, you're kind of locked in. So the risk is on the client, is on the purchaser. And if it goes really well, then fantastic. If it doesn't go quite so well, you can't take that and go elsewhere. So the risk is on clients, and it's a situation that that's kind of built up over quite a few years, really. And there's new channels that are on the market, but we thought there's the way of doing things have not really changed, and that's something that you know, that we wanted to change. We're into lockdown. And you know, that we thought we had a bit more time. This is something that we have now the ability to change because there's technology on the market that allows us to change. And Nick, you were kind of a real big advocate as well of this, were you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. you want me to, is it next slide or, yeah?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, you know, we were obviously up against it, and I think that we just felt like exactly what Johnny said. When it came to the budgets, for me, handing over 40, 50,000 pounds for an annual or even a 6 month, depending on what package you were getting, was a real hit on your budget. So it just meant that that was spent already, and your budget just kept diminishing. And it made it incredibly hard when hotspots came on, where a new tender came in, or you needed to deploy something that was so specific, but your budget was just literally had nothing left. So yeah, we just felt like we were paying lots of money and, you know, sometimes getting little return. And I think anybody who understands job board, you know, if you're just advertising one job board, you're only going to get what you want out of that one job board. So you've got no opportunity to go anywhere else. And that was really challenging. Stretch targets, not possible, no matter how much we spent. So give you an example, we have a difficult place to recruit. And I know Charlotte, who we were talking about in the other group from the Southwest, is one of our difficult areas to recruit. So I feel your pain, Charlotte, and also South, like Hampshire and all places like that. And within there, we were spending so much money because we were just trying to throw things at it. And there was one main big job board that we were doing that with, and it didn't matter how much we threw at it, it didn't work. But that was our only focus because we were just looking at one thing. So that was something that we needed to reflect on. Shortcut ATS to get candidates from some channels. So again, there's certain job boards that don't integrate with our ATS. So it was wasting a lot of time, effort, capacity, and also conversions, because you're having to use one system, process, then go over to another system, process. And for anybody who obviously can appreciate, whether it's retail, I think, or care sector, time's the essence. So if you are not dealing with candidates quick enough, they're gone. You know, and it was, you know, whoever got to them first. So that again was all things that were just adding up that just didn't feel right at all. So yeah, wasting lots of time chasing up different leads as well.
So yeah, so that was the scenario. How are we helping now clients break that cycle? So we've got a product we call Programmatic Performance, which is a software that Creed managed to serve your ads or ads campaign to candidates in real time on lots of different job boards or channels at the lowest possible cost. So that's kind of the summary of what it is. And just in summary of what it's given you, Nick, up to you again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's definitely changed my opinion now of where we are now. So just that traditional method, it's really opened up my eyes to say that we don't have to now do the notorious avenues that we once had in place. And I've been in recruitment for what, 15 years now, and that has always been the traditional methods that you would do. So that was great to know that there was other opportunities. What I then started to see that there was a big improvement on my cost per application from the in-channels as well. And that was a real positive, because it's something that we work with Johnny every single week, and we have reviews about how we're performing. And despite sending candidates to the ATS, that again allowed us to make sure that everybody's being sent onto one channel. It made it more efficient, it made it transparent. It made us to allow to get more effective in relevant reports as well, so we could make decisions. Applications in locations that we had written off. So I'll give you an example, Cambridgeshire. So anybody who recruits in Cambridgeshire, it's a bit of a bloody tough one. And again, you know, we would have like 2 hires a month of, you know, expectation where we need 10 plus. And we started to see applications coming through and we were like, oh, okay, that would be something that we would have either spent a huge amount of money or we just had to accept, or, you know, fall back onto alternative costs like for agency or permanent placements, which is, again, all adding onto the budget. The biggest one I think we've had so far today, and don't forget, we're still in our early, really months of this. So we went live in November. And we had teething, you know, we were not teething problems because it wasn't problems. It was just, you know, we're finding our way through it, that's all. We were trying to tweak things, and we're now in a really great rhythm. So we're in May, and I think in that term has been a great embedding it all in and understanding. Our greatest wins of this has been delivering nurses. Now, I'm not going to stand here and say that you can resolve all your problems, because I'd be bloody lying. What I can say is that we had embarked on an overseas campaign to bring nurses in, and that was going to cost us in excess of 40-50k to do that. We decided, didn't we, Johnny, that we're like, actually, let's not just do it for support workers, let's have a go at nurses as well. While we were literally, we'd see people, we'd offer people, we were ready for bringing them over nearly. And we got 3 nurses, and that was off an attraction campaign budget of 500, wasn't it, Johnny?
Yep.
I think it was for down south. So we didn't have to do and spend that 40-50 grand. Actually, this is more than saved and paid for the system itself. And like I say, we'd hoped we were going to get good results from the programmatic performance. And actually, it really did surpass it in so many reasons for doing it. So we've had a great positive start. So we're really excited about where this is going to go again, over the next 12 months with Creed supporting us on that.
Yeah, and it's a journey, to use that sort of cliche phrase, isn't it? But of where we go into and improving month on month and seeing what works and improving on that. So we kind of given an overview of what it is. So I suppose a way of highlighting what it offers Nick and what it offers clients is by comparing the old model and the programmatic performance model. So we talk about performance. It's a piece of machine learning software that improves upon the performance of channels on their own channels. So we've seen some channels, existing well-known pay-per-click channels, where we've improved up to 50% the cost per application on there, because it analyzes and learns from previous performance, and it bids at the best possible cost. It's not relying on a person at the other end to set up a manual cost per click or a manual job and it just running until someone looks at it again. So obviously performance is really important, and that's the biggest sort of win, really, by plugging the machine in to get all that sophistication rather than relying on manual intervention. So performance, really important. Control for anyone is obviously really important as well, because we can set up caps and rules on a campaign. That means, for example, we can get a big spreadsheet to say these are all the roles we want to that want to advertise, and this is how many applications we want in each location. So we can set that cap initially to say, right, if we want 10 there or 50 there applications, it stops when it gets to that point. So if that point is at midnight on a Saturday, potentially, it stops because that's already set up. You're not reliant on someone looking, logging into the system and say, oh yeah, we've had 100 applications this weekend, didn't need quite that many. Doesn't need that human intervention. So it gives you, means you can manage and move that budget around a lot easier. We also talk about reach. So we're not just committing to fewer channels where you have to put more money in to get that economy of scale. We can go on many channels through the software, and we are committing to the opportunity to advertise on there rather than committing the money up front. So we've got the agreement to be on there, but the client only pays when you when a candidate is clicking and goes through onto your ATS. So it means that reach is a lot bigger because you can be on lots more channels, and it gives you a lot more flexibility as well. So for example, within the programmatic performance environment, if there's a new channel that we can get on there, it doesn't mean that you have to say, right, okay, we need to give this quite a good go. We need to stick 3 or 4 grand on or whatever to try this new channel. We can try it out within the agreement of the programmatic performance model. And if it works, we can put more money in it. And if it doesn't work, we can move it elsewhere. So you can move it around depending where the performance is, where it's working, and chase success. So that's what it gives you. Another way of looking at it is how a candidate, how this would appear to a candidate, a campaign. So with the programmatic performance, because we are not committing up front to specific channels and paying them up front, we're paying when someone clicks. You can be on a lot more channels. So it could be on 10, 15, 20 channels for a specific campaign, but you only click you're only paid when someone clicks on the advert and they're interested and they go through, as opposed to the old model. You'd have your budget split into 1 or 2 or 3 channels, and you're hoping the candidate at the time you've got that advert live in that particular location is going on that job board and looking at your advert. So if they look on any of the other channels that you could have been on, they're not going to know that you're recruiting. Okay, so then in terms of managing the campaign, this is the general process. So we set up the campaign goals, strategy and tactics. We have typically an XML feed. There's other ways of doing it. An XML feed is the best way of doing it to pull a job through. So the software then has access to all your jobs. We agree which ones we want to advertise and put money behind, and then a cap. So typically we would have a cap on time, spend and application. So it might be a week and £100 and 10 applications, or whatever that is. Once it hits the first cap, that turns off, and then that budget can go elsewhere. The software that we use, that our digital team manage, decides where best that where the campaign should go and where we should be putting the advert. And then, you know, when you hit that cap, that stops, and then the budget goes either elsewhere onto another job or another area. So it kind of does all that to some degree automatically with us, with our digital team managing it and making sure we're getting the best out of it. So yeah, and that's the kind of process we use for you, isn't it, Nick?
Yeah, and I think just to simplify, I think for anybody who's probably listened to this and feeling like, oh, this is a bit complicated and anything else like that, I completely get it. That's where I was back in November when we were about to launch. I was like, I think I still get this, but it wasn't until you actually start doing it do you really understand how complex it probably appears, but actually it's really simple. And the simplicity of this is, what we do is that we advertise our jobs via this method, and we have a budget every month that we allocate towards it, exactly what Johnny just said. And it will either spend or it won't. And for where we know we've spent enough, we stop it, which is great. And then we can use that elsewhere, and we've got what we needed for that task. We also have the opportunity to advertise on so many different platforms. And let me just say that again, so many different platforms compared to where we were 12 months ago when we only appeared on 2 platforms. And we just pray to God that them 2 platforms brought in what we needed. That's what we used to, every day you come in hoping. And you know what it's like with the 30 days, you know, job credits, you drop down and down and down and down. You have to wait, don't you? That last 10 days is quite painful. But at least with this, you're literally being pushed out to anywhere. Now, one thing just to bear in mind, and it was funny because I was so interested at the beginning of, well, which job board's working the best? Which platform am I getting the best return off for? It's really irrelevant, because if anybody knows recruitment, you'll know the market changes so quickly all the time. So what one job board could have been good this year might not be so good the next year, and so on and so on. And the beauty, and it is the beauty of this platform, is that because there are so many different ones, it will work and manage to what is the best platform for your role at that time. So one month could be this, another month could be another company, another month could be another company. And that's the beauty. You could never have achieved that by having single contracts as an organisation, plus you spend, unless you've got a lovely budget, which most of us don't. So it was really just to say, that's how you can break it down and really simplify it. And we just don't get caught up in that, do we, Johnny? Because we're like, it's bringing in volumes, it's bringing in the right conversion. And that's all that matters, because next month could look very differently from where it gets from. So as long as the platform brings me what I want, it's irrelevant where it comes from. So yeah, I hope that helps from other point of view.
Yeah, and that's a bit of a summary, I suppose, as well. Lots of benefits, few frustrations. It's delivering in areas that that had always been really notoriously tricky, and it just gives all that you know, that flexibility and the ability to go on all these other different channels as well. It's not a silver bullet, but it's just a very different way of going to market to try and the timing, I suppose, has been really good in that it's been done through COVID, and we've seen some really big changes in candidate behaviour, both in terms of candidates, but also in terms of specific channels. And this helps mitigate some of those big changes by the flexibility, enabling you to be lots of places at the same time and capitalise on the areas that are working well, whilst mitigating against putting all your eggs in one basket, and that basket having a hole in the bottom. You know, we've got clients that committed to an annual contract almost right at the start of COVID, and then haven't used a lot of it. So yeah, it helps with some of that. So just in terms of anyone that's interested, it's quite easy, or at least we try and make it quite easy to set up. We handle the integration with the tech team and with the software. We create the strategy together, and it can be really, really quite flexible. It's not just about volume. We've got clients that use it for specific niche non-volume roles, and with nurses, as Nick mentioned, so we can create that strategy together. It's not a one size fits all. We will manage the suppliers within, you know, within the environment, adding new ones in all the time when there's a new opportunity that comes up. Just because we try and make life as simple and straightforward as possible. Some of these pieces of technology are, by their very nature, really quite complicated, but we try and take all that away so that a client can have a far lower barrier to entry to make this happen, rather than needing, you know, a tech team that can decipher it all in-house. We try and take all that away.